Hi guys, today we're going to continue talking about finding the volume of rectangular prisms, but we're going to look at it from a slightly different angle today. We're going to talk about packing those rectangular prisms with unit cubes that might not be 1 by 1 by 1 cubes. So let's begin. Quickly, let's review volume. We know volume is length times width times height. So that's where I take the length, the width, and the height of a rectangular prism, and I multiply them to find the volume. So 3 times 3 times 5, that's 45 feet to the third power, feet cubed. What that means is that I'm trying to figure out how many little cubes, unit cubes, fit into this prism. And so that's why we use feet to the third power. Plus, we are using 3 different measures, length, width, and height. So let's look at this big cube. We have a 4 by 4 by 4 cube, and we have this little 1 by 1 by 1 cube. And so the question I want to ask is, and when we find volume, the question we're actually answering is, how many little cubes would it take to completely fill up the larger cube? Well, there are several ways that we can do this. We can use the algorithm, but I want to actually pack this one with cubes to find the answer. So we could stack these little cubes into the larger cube and see how many of them it would take to fill it up. And that would be 4 layers. Each layer has 16 little cubes on it. So 4 layers of 16, or 4 by 4 by 4, is 64 little cubes. So the volume is 64 inches squared, because that's how many little inch squares, or inches cubed, sorry, that's how many little inch cubes actually go into the larger figure. So keep in mind that when we are doing this, when we're filling the larger cube with these little unit cubes, we're actually asking how many times does that fit into there. And when we do that, we're actually referring to the operation of division. So how many of these little cubes would fit into the larger one? Well, the problem changes here. How so? Well, it changes because now I'm not using 1 by 1 by 1 inch cubes. I'm using 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4 inch cubes, which means there's going to be a lot more to go in there. You can think of it as how many of these fit in here, or if I were to divide this big shape up into 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4 cubes, how many cubes would I get? So let's find out how many 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4 inch cubes fit into the larger cube. Well, we can answer this question in several ways, and I'm going to show you one strategy today. If you have a different strategy, I would love for you to share it with the class when we come together to discuss this video. All right, I'm going to show you how I like to do this one. We can answer this question by dividing the volume of the larger shape by the volume of the smaller shape. So what I mean is, I need to find the volume of the larger cube. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64 inches cubed. I need to find the volume of the smaller cube. 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4, which is 1/64 inches cubed. Now, remember how we said we're asking really how many of these fit in here, and that really means division? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the volume of the larger cube, 64 inches cubed, and divide it into 1/64 inch cubes. And when I do that, remember, keep, change, flip, I'm going to get 4,096 little cubes that fit into the larger cube. Let's try another one where the larger shape, is not a cube. How many little cubes can fit inside this larger prism? Well, the algorithm doesn't change at all. I'm still going to find the volume of the larger cube, 6 times 5 times 4, and I'm going to find the volume of the smaller cube, 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3. I'm going to take those two volumes and I'm going to divide them. And when I keep it, change it, flip it, I get 3,240 little cubes that can fit into the larger prism. Now it's your turn. Try this problem. How many cubes, 1/4 by 1/4 by 1/4 cubes, can fit into this larger rectangular prism? Pause the video and give it a shot. Okay, let's see how you did. First, you find the volume of the larger prism, 8 times 3 times 3, which is 72 inches cubed. Then you find the volume of the smaller prism, 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4, which is 1/64 inches cubed. Then we divide the volume of the larger prism by the volume of the smaller prism. And when we do that, we get 4,608 cubes. Keep in mind, my units are not inches cubed because I want to know how many of these little guys, these little cubes, fit in. So my units are actually measuring how many of those cubes fit in this space. We are done with this video. Go on and try the practice, and we will discuss this further in class.